Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. Please recognize the gentlelady from Wisconsin, Ms. Moore.
Thank you so very, very much, Mr. Chairman. And I want to join the bipartisan rebuke of fraud. And I want to commend all of you for the efforts that you're making for recovery. I'm, as a member, I'm willing to explore ways to help with that Recovery Act. As many of you have indicated in your testimony, written and verbal here today, that this is not a new problem. We've heard various dates pushed out by many of my colleagues about when this started, but I was thinking that 2010 was when the GAO first gave us a warning that our systems were at risk. Is that right, sir, Mr. Dutteray?
Well, we've I don't know. What I said about 2010 was that the New York Deputy Controller notified New York State in 2010 that their systems needed to be improved.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. And you know, I'm from Wisconsin, and I know that our IT systems go back to the 1970s. You know, there was a sharp drop in eligible unemployment recipients from like 40, 50% to 28%. And what states like Wisconsin did, many states did, is their staff, their trained staff was also reduced in proportion to that. So no one was ready for this pandemic. That just left things open for fraud, I would think. And I would like to just get some clarification from Mr. Turner. You mentioned that, you know, a lot of the overpayments that we saw, and maybe even underpayments, were not people's faults necessarily. They were states' faults. Their administrative problems that they had given this old technology and how overwhelming it was. I mean, you know, I have a report that I'm going to ask to be entered into the record, and it talks about how in Wisconsin, for example, that 80% of the people who called, they just let the phones ring because they couldn't respond to it. So would you agree that really stuff outside of that, you know, states not implementing it, the Trump administration not implementing your recommendations, that these things created a glide path for fraud?
Well, there was a lot of mistakes made from the states, and in some cases, it was a lack of training on the part of the staff. In the case of PUA, it was a lack of understanding the program in some cases, and therefore that caused some of the errors.
Right. But given that, I guess the other thing that I would like to know from you, with all of your experience, Mr. Dodaro, do you still stand by the statement that the U.S. Government Accountability Office reviewed 30 different empirical studies and concluded that UI benefits created overall economic stability and improved outcomes for individuals?
I do.
Okay. And I just am sort of wondering if we had not provided, you said you were there when Mr. Paulson showed up asking for that $700 billion. Do you think we could have had the same kind of catastrophic events had we not provided unemployment?
I think yes, we...
The 54 million people, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Also, you did these 30 reports, and you said you reported that 8 of the 12 studies reviewed discussed whether the benefits discouraged folk from returning to work, and they said no. Is that something that is the case?
That's what the studies concluded.
Okay, very good. Well, anyway, I would like, before my time expires, to enter into the record a couple of documents. One from the Wisconsin Public Radio, Lives on Hold, Pandemic Exposes Failures of Wisconsin Unemployment Insurance System. And really, there are so many sad stories. I have other sad stories I'd like to enter into the record. From my district office, it talked about people just feeling almost suicidal and giving up hope of not getting their benefits. This particular publication talks about a man in Wisconsin who moved into his car because he checked the wrong box. He said he didn't know why he was let go of the job. So that just sent his application into weeks and months long obscurity. And he was so humiliated as a man that he had to move in with his ex-wife and her new boyfriend in order to survive. That's very humiliating, and I think I would like everybody to share that story with everybody. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to put in the record lives on hold. Pandemic exposes failures of Wisconsin unemployment insurance system, and some redacted copies of my constituents who were affected and appreciated it.
Without objection.
Without objection.
Without objection.
Thank you so much, sir, and I yield back.
Thank you, Representative.